A human man named Orion, rugged from years of solitary exploration, trekked deep into the uncharted jungle of a distant planet. This planet was a lush expanse of towering trees with bioluminescent vines coiling like serpents. The air shimmered with a golden mist that carried the scent of strange flowers and alien life, yet Orion moved with an easy grace, a seasoned traveler immune to awe. He walked along a crystalline river that snaked through the jungle like a vein of light. The water was iridescent, reflecting the twin suns overhead. Though mesmerizing, Orion remained vigilant. Life here was untamed, and the stories of predators were enough to keep even the bravest wanderers on edge. A sound broke the rhythmic flow of the river, a splashing, desperate and wild. Orion tensed and approached the source cautiously. His sharp gaze caught the thrashing form of an animal trapped in the swirling currents. It was unlike anything he had seen before, lithe, sleek, with fur that shimmered like molten silver. It had large, expressive eyes filled with fear, and its limbs flailed against the river's unrelenting pull. Without hesitation, Orion plunged into the water. The icy chill bit into his skin, but he ignored it, his powerful strokes carrying him to the struggling creature. He wrapped his arms around it, feeling the smoothness of its fur and the strength in its trembling body. With a forceful kick, he propelled them both toward the shore, collapsing on the mossy riverbank as they broke free of the current. For a moment, he lay panting, drenched, and exhausted. The creature beside him shivered, its luminous eyes locked onto his. He watched in awe as the animal's form shimmered, the silvery fur shedding like mist, dissipating into the air. In its place stood a tall, elegant figure, an alien woman with ethereal beauty. Her skin was a soft iridescence, her hair a cascade of silver that seemed to ripple like water in the wind. She wore nothing but a woven garb of luminescent leaves, and her gaze, piercing yet gentle, held gratitude and something else, curiosity. "You saved me," she said, her voice melodic and strange, resonating with the hum of the jungle. Orion, still catching his breath, nodded slowly. "I thought you were drowning." Her smile was both enigmatic and warm. "I was. But I am not what you think." "I can see that," he replied, glancing at her now humanoid form. "Who are you?" "I am Lirien," she said, bowing her head slightly. "A guardian of this world." Orion pushed himself to a sitting position. "A guardian?" Her expression softened. "We take many forms to protect the balance here. You, a human, had no reason to intervene, yet you risked your life." He shrugged, brushing his wet hair back. "I couldn't let anything die if I could help it." Lirien studied him for a long moment, then spoke with a tone that held ancient wisdom. "Such compassion is rare. As a guardian, I am bound to reward those who save my kind." "I didn't do it for a reward," Orion said, though his curiosity was piqued. "Nonetheless," Lirien continued, "you will receive one. But it is not gold or power, it is something far more precious." She raised her hand, and a soft glow emanated from her palm, coalescing into a small orb of light. It hovered in the air, pulsating gently. "This," she said, "is the seed of understanding. It will grant you the ability to comprehend and speak with all forms of life on this planet, and perhaps beyond." Orion's brow furrowed. "Why would you give me something so powerful?" Lirien's smile deepened, her eyes twinkling with mystery. "Because you saved me without knowing who I was. And because I see in you the potential to bridge the gap between worlds." The orb drifted toward him, and instinctively, Orion reached out. The moment his fingers touched it, a warmth spread through him, and his mind expanded. He could feel the pulse of the jungle, the rhythm of the trees, the whispers of the wind, the chorus of unseen creatures. It was overwhelming yet exhilarating. When he opened his eyes, Lirien was watching him with an expression that bordered on reverence. "Your journey is only beginning, Orion. The jungle holds many secrets, and now, you will hear them all." Before he could ask more, Lirien began to fade, her form dissolving into light. Her final words lingered in the air like an echo. "Remember, understanding is the greatest reward, and the greatest responsibility." Alone once more, Orion sat by the river, the jungle around him no longer silent but alive with voices he could finally understand. And he knew, with a certainty that stirred his soul, that his destiny had been forever altered by the life he had saved, and the unexpected reward it had given him. Orion sat by the shimmering river, the jungle's symphony of life unfolding in a way he'd never imagined. The gentle rustle of leaves, the distant calls of unseen creatures, even the rhythmic pulse of the earth beneath him, all spoke in a language he could now understand. At first, the cacophony overwhelmed him. Thousands of voices intertwined, a living, breathing tapestry of communication. He took a deep breath, focusing on the nearest sound, the soft murmur of a tree swaying in the wind. "Welcome, listener," the tree whispered, its voice ancient and deep, like the creak of old wood. "You carry the gift of the guardian." Orion blinked, startled. "You can speak." "We always have," the tree replied, its leaves rustling with amusement. "But few can hear." He reached out, placing a hand on the rough bark. "What am I supposed to do with this gift?" "Listen," the tree said simply, "and learn." The words resonated with him. He had spent years traveling the galaxy, seeking adventure, knowledge, and purpose. Yet here, in this untamed world, he felt a new calling, one that demanded more than survival or exploration. It demanded understanding. As days passed, Orion delved deeper into the jungle, his senses attuned to the vibrant ecosystem around him. He spoke with creatures of all shapes and sizes, towering beasts with crystalline horns, tiny insects that glowed like stars, and serpentine beings that slithered through the underbrush, their scales humming with soft melodies. One evening, he sat by a fire he'd built beneath a canopy of luminescent flowers. The flames crackled, and the air was thick with the scent of sweet blossoms. A small creature resembling a fox with iridescent fur approached, its eyes gleaming with curiosity. "You are the one who saved the guardian," it said, its voice light and musical. "You are different now." "I suppose I am," Orion replied, offering it a piece of dried fruit. "Do you know Lirien?" The creature nibbled the offering, its ears twitching. "She is not often seen, but her presence is felt. She guards the heart of the jungle." "The heart." Orion leaned forward. "What is that?" "A place where all life converges," the fox said. "A source of power and balance. Few have ever seen it." Orion's mind raced. The heart of the jungle sounded like a mystery worth uncovering. "Can you take me there?" The fox tilted its head. "The path is treacherous, and the jungle does not always welcome outsiders. But you may be different." It paused, considering. "I will guide you, if you wish." "I wish," Orion said, determination hardening his voice. The journey to the heart of the jungle was unlike anything Orion had experienced. The fox led him through dense foliage that seemed to part only for them, across rivers of liquid light, and beneath towering arches of crystalline rock. As they traveled, the jungle itself seemed to test him. Roots coiled like serpents, thorned vines lashed out, and strange creatures watched from the shadows. But Orion had changed. He spoke to the vines, soothing them with words of peace. He reassured the wary creatures, promising no harm. And slowly, the jungle relented, accepting him as one of its own. At last, they reached a clearing unlike any other. In the center stood a colossal tree, its bark shimmering with gold, its branches stretching to the heavens, covered in flowers that glowed with an inner light. The air was thick with power, and the ground pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is the heart?" Orion asked, awed. "Yes," the fox said, bowing low. "It is the source of life, the anchor of our world." As Orion approached, the tree's voice echoed in his mind, vast and ancient. "You have come far, listener." "Why?" "I want to understand," Orion said. "To know this world, to protect it if I can." The tree was silent for a long moment. Then, its voice rumbled with approval. "You have passed the trials of the jungle. You are worthy." A branch descended, its end glowing with golden light. It touched Orion's chest, and a surge of energy flowed through him. Visions flashed before his eyes, of Lirien in her many forms, of the jungle's birth, of the balance maintained by the guardians. When the vision ended, Orion stood trembling but unafraid. The tree's final words echoed in his mind. "You are now a guardian, Orion. Protect the balance, for it is fragile." As the days turned into weeks, Orion remained in the jungle, no longer an outsider but a part of its living essence. He understood the language of life in all its forms and carried the burden of its protection. And though Lirien never appeared again, her voice often echoed in his thoughts, reminding him that the greatest reward was not the power he had gained, but the wisdom to wield it with care. Thus, Orion's story became legend, a human who chose to protect a world not his own, forever bound to the jungle's heart, forever listening, learning, and guarding the fragile balance of life. Orion's days in the jungle became a blend of wonder and vigilance. His every step resonated with the pulse of the planet, and his every breath carried the scent of wild growth and untamed life. As a newly anointed guardian, he spent his time wandering the vast expanse, seeking to understand the intricacies of the ecosystem that had become his responsibility. Yet, peace never lasted long in such a place. One night, beneath the glow of the twin moons, Orion was roused by a disturbance, a tremor that rippled through the ground, sharp and insistent. The jungle's voices were discordant, filled with fear and confusion. "Danger approaches," hissed the vines overhead. "It is not of this world." Orion stood, alert. "Where?" The response was a cacophony of warnings from the flora and fauna. "To the east. It burns. It consumes." He set off immediately, his footsteps swift but silent. The fox-like creature from before, whom he had named Tiva, joined him, darting through the underbrush. "This is wrong," Tiva murmured. "The jungle is afraid." Orion nodded grimly. "It should be." As they neared the disturbance, the air grew hotter, heavy with smoke and the scent of scorched earth. The once vibrant jungle was marred by destruction, a swath of trees reduced to smoldering husks, the ground charred black. In the center of the devastation stood a machine, a hulking, angular construct of metal and fire, its mechanical limbs carving into the earth. It was clearly not native to the planet. Orion's heart sank. He had seen such machines before. Miners. Terraformers. Greedy hands reaching to strip a world of its riches, heedless of the life they destroyed. From the machine emerged figures clad in armor, their faces obscured by helmets. They carried weapons, their movements precise and calculated. Mercenaries, no doubt, hired to clear the land for whatever corporation sought to exploit this world. Orion felt the jungle's pain, the collective outcry of the life it sustained. He could hear the trees weeping, the creatures crying out in terror. His hand clenched into a fist. "They have to be stopped," he muttered. Tiva glanced up at him, her eyes gleaming. "You are the guardian. Will you act?" He nodded. "I must." Orion approached the mercenaries slowly, stepping from the jungle's shadows into the edge of the scorched clearing. The figures turned, weapons raising instantly, their movements sharp. "Identify yourself," one barked, his voice metallic through the helmet speaker. "I'm Orion," he said calmly. "This planet is under my protection. Leave, or face the consequences." The mercenaries exchanged glances, then laughter rippled through their ranks. One stepped forward, a burly figure with a weapon that crackled with energy. "You, alone? What are you, some kind of hermit?" Orion's eyes hardened. "I'm a guardian." The ground trembled, and the jungle responded to his call. Vines lashed out like living whips, wrapping around the nearest mercenary and yanking him into the underbrush, where the shadows swallowed his screams. The others staggered back, their bravado faltering. "You're trespassing," Orion said, his voice cold. "This world doesn't want you here." The leader of the group snarled and raised his weapon, firing a bolt of energy toward Orion. But before it could reach him, the ground surged upward, a wall of earth and roots intercepting the blast. The jungle itself fought alongside him. The mercenaries opened fire, but the jungle was alive with fury. Roots erupted from the ground, tangling around their legs. Branches swung like hammers, striking them down. The air filled with the screeches of alien birds and the roars of beasts emerging to defend their home. Tiva leaped onto one mercenary, her iridescent fur blazing with light, and with a fierce cry, sent him sprawling. Orion moved like a force of nature, wielding the jungle's power as an extension of his will. He didn't need weapons. The jungle was his weapon. In mere moments, it was over. The mercenaries lay defeated, bound by roots or unconscious, their weapons useless. The machine had been overgrown with vines, its gears jammed by the relentless embrace of the jungle. Orion stood over the leader, who lay gasping, his helmet cracked. "Leave," Orion said again, his voice like stone. "Tell whoever sent you that this world is not theirs to take." The man glared up at him but said nothing. The jungle hissed in warning, and with a reluctant nod, the leader signaled retreat. As the remaining mercenaries fled into the jungle's shadows, Orion released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The jungle quieted, the tension easing, but the scars of the battle remained, charred earth and broken trees. Tiva approached, her fur still shimmering. "You did well." Orion knelt, placing a hand on the wounded earth. "Not well enough. The jungle is still hurt." "It will heal," the tree from earlier whispered, its voice filled with gratitude. "Because you are here." Orion rose, his heart heavy but resolute. The fight was far from over. Others would come, greed would always return. But he was the guardian now, and he would protect this world with everything he had. Days turned to weeks, and the jungle began to heal. Charred earth sprouted new life, tendrils of green pushing through the blackened soil. The machine the mercenaries had left behind was overtaken by vines, transformed into an eerie monument to the jungle's resilience. Orion felt the pulse of the jungle grow stronger, its voices no longer filled with fear but with cautious hope. He spent his time walking the land, speaking with the trees, the rivers, and the creatures. Everywhere he went, he heard gratitude and warnings of more threats to come. But there was peace, however fragile, and Orion treasured it. He spent long nights beneath the twin moons, listening to the stories of ancient trees, and sometimes, in the quiet hours, he thought of Lirien. Though she had vanished after gifting him the seed of understanding, her presence lingered, like a whisper at the edge of his consciousness. One evening, as the sky turned a deep indigo and the air shimmered with the glow of bioluminescent flowers, Tiva approached him. She sat beside him, her sleek form glowing faintly. "You've changed," she said, her voice soft. "The jungle feels your presence now as one of its own." Orion smiled, his hand resting on the cool moss beneath him. "I've never belonged anywhere before. But here, I do." Tiva tilted her head. "Yet, you carry a shadow. A weight." He sighed, gazing into the horizon. "I know the mercenaries will return. They always do. And next time, they'll bring more firepower. I'm only one man." The fox-like creature's eyes gleamed. "You are not alone, Orion. The jungle stands with you." The peace ended as Orion feared it would. One morning, the sky was torn apart by the roar of engines. A fleet of ships descended, their metal hulls gleaming ominously. Larger than the first group, more numerous, and more prepared. They landed with ruthless precision, disgorging soldiers clad in heavier armor and machines bristling with weapons designed to subdue a planet. The jungle trembled. Orion felt its fear, but he stood tall, his jaw set with determination. He raised his hand to the sky, and the jungle answered. "They have returned," the trees rumbled. "We will fight with you." The battle was unlike any before. The mercenaries advanced, their weapons blazing, scorching the ground and shredding the foliage. But the jungle fought back with a fury that could not be contained. Trees uprooted themselves, their roots like writhing serpents. Rivers surged, washing away machines in torrents of liquid light. Beasts of all sizes emerged from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with rage, and they struck with teeth, claws, and raw power. Orion was in the center of it all, directing the jungle's wrath, feeling its pain as his own. He summoned walls of vines to shield the forest, commanded swarms of insects to overwhelm the invaders, and unleashed torrents of stone and earth against the metallic monstrosities. The mercenaries fought fiercely, but they were not prepared for a world that had come alive to defend itself. Their machines faltered, their weapons grew useless against the relentless tide of nature. One by one, they fell, until only silence remained.